Again, I find myself talking about one of the debatably least exciting bits of camera-related kit: batteries. They are, however, absolutely essential to so many of the shoots that we do, powering cameras, focus systems, timecode boxes, audio recorders, and lighting, to name a few. Historically, battery power for lighting wasn't practical when we were using tungsten and HMI sources, but with the seismic shift in the industry towards LED, this has become a possibility. Our regularly used sets of Aperture MC lights, Astera tubes, all kinds of little small fixtures that have internal batteries. They become an incredibly useful tool, but very much fit into the niche of a little pop of something in the background or replacing a practical. My key light will still tend to be the more powerful LED fixtures. At the moment, Aperture 600Ds, we've got loads of them, or at least an Aperture 300X. And although the battery power via VLOX has always been a possibility on those, nothing's changed, honestly I hadn't really ever used it. The brutal fact is, I have always had lower capacity batteries to run the cameras. I like them around 100 because they are lighter, and the run times are just too short to really be relied upon. Also, we eat into our camera battery stock, which isn't good. That's a long intro. This is a review of the Core SWX APEX 360 batteries. First of all, I and Still Moving have worked as ambassadors with Core SWX for years. Clearly, I could be biased, so take this review with that pinch of salt. The premise of these batteries is that although you can use any normal VLOC that you'd use to power a camera to power an LED light, it's actually more effective to have a really high capacity battery, and therefore heavier battery, that does away with all of the aspects that might be useful on a camera but less useful on a light, such as a D-tap port, USB outputs, and a screen. They still retain a set of indicator LEDs for level of charge, but aside from that, they're kept really minimal to keep the costs low and basically just make them simple workhorses. Okay, so we have some powerful batteries that can be used in locations without any mains power. Basically, they work. And they work really well. And that's sort of a low bar, you know, they just work. That's what batteries do. Runtimes on a 300X are really respectable. Depending on the power level, we're seeing these kind of times at 100% and these kind of times if you drop that power level to 50%. The runtime obviously increases as you'd expect. As the name implies, these batteries have a 367 watt-hour capacity compared to our normal preference for camera batteries, already mentioned, being around the 100 watt-hour size. This is clearly packing way more punch. Though with the associated increase, we also have an increase in weight. These are 3.6 pounds. I haven't found that to be an issue personally because we always have the ballast quite low on our stand, so adding weight to the bottom of the stand increases the stability of the setup. You know, I'm not saying that you wouldn't have to sandbag it still, but it's just more weight at the bottom, which is welcome. Don't put them at the top because that would be silly. We are also able to operate the more powerful 600Ds with a significantly lower runtime, but Core are just about to ship a higher voltage version of these APEX batteries that is more suitable for those power-hungry fixtures, and it's ostensibly 29.6 volts, but has a few modes of operation where it can switch between 22 and 33.6 volts with a constant output of 12 amps. Nevertheless, bringing it back to this specific model, which is running at the standard low voltage 14.8, it's going to power everything just fine. It's just, you know, your runtime varies. I've worked on a few shoots recently where we needed to light interviews in spaces that had no mains power. This always makes me a little bit nervous, as I know interviews can run on for hours and hours. However, on the actual day, the light levels in the space were quite low, and that meant the 300X that we were using as key light was right down around 25%. And after almost 3 hours of filming, we'd barely made a dent in the runtime. That's kind of reassured me that although we're running on batteries, we don't need to worry about it. And with a small stockpile of those, we could operate in a reliable way off-grid and not really think too much about it. In the same way now, we can run cameras with our reliable Gold Mountain VLOC batteries. We could do the same with the lights, that's just fine. But let's face it, that isn't really interesting, is it? They're batteries, they're from a reputable company, and they work. It's not news. What I found intriguing was how this as a piece of equipment worked its way into shoots in a way that I didn't really expect. As part of this review, I've basically just taken these out on every shoot that we've done. Now, I can't share details of all of those because of NDAs, but more and more I found that when there's a time crunch, if something's going against us, if we need another pop of light somewhere quickly, or something needs to be moved and maybe we don't want to eat into the day to run the distro, I've been able to rely on just having a light with these batteries on in there to be able to fulfill that time crunch pressure, you know, getting everything working and hopefully coming out with a nice look as well. This is the interesting part for me, because I can see a scenario where on a shoot I have batteries like this on multiple lights, maybe all of the lights that I'm using, and if at some point we need to shift something around, we don't need to worry about running the distro. We can just disconnect, move fast, and keep our day running. Finally, we also obviously got next to it just here the X2R charger, which can take one of the Core APEX 360s to full charge in a little over 5 hours, and that roughly doubles if you're doing 2 batteries on either side. 10 and 11 hours you'll be fully charged. Management of battery charging is always a consideration. It's even less glamorous than batteries, but you do need to think about it on back-to-back shoots, so having a separate unit that is bringing those up to full capacity in 5 hours or overnight is really essential for us. We don't want to have to use chargers that we're using for other batteries for these, because we need to charge the camera batteries. So yeah, get a charger. Core do packages where you can get a charger and 2 of the Apexes, which is kind of what we've got just here, for a very competitive price, US dollars, UK pounds, so yeah, check it out. So what are the alternatives? There are plenty of batteries out there that clearly you could have used already. Any V-Lock, you will have manufacturers that you know and trust. They'll work, but for higher power LEDs, you often find that people rely on block batteries, and I personally don't really like those because they're just bulk that sits on the floor. They don't necessarily help with ballasting down the stand, and they don't attach to the ballast of, say, the 600D. They are a separate item. So yeah, you get a lot of capacity, but they don't fit, for me, as neatly into the ecosystem of the aperture lights as these do. For me, having a package of aperture lights already with ballast mounting V-Lock points, it's the neatest solution. Just get a V-Lock. It's the way to go. Real talk then, would I recommend these batteries? Yeah, I would. They work very well. We have taken this out as equipment on to real shoots, real gigs that we are doing, and they're big shoots, you know, there's lots of stuff going on. So we don't want to mess up a big shoot for the sake of what is, in the scheme of things, a relatively low cost item such as this. You know, when we're dealing with big sets, we're dealing with multiple days, we're dealing with lots of talent who's being paid to be there, the cost of the batteries becomes insignificant in that context. So I'm not going to say something's good on the shoots that we've been using it on if it's not good, because there are so many other considerations that you know, have to be addressed before a piece of equipment makes the cut, basically. But these worked great. And I liked them a lot. I liked them so much that that Core aren't going to get them back. They are not going to get these back. They can try. They can try. Caitlin, and all the team at Core, you know where we are. You know where Still Movie is. We'll send you the address. In fact, take prior to this, I just sent you our address. You've got our address. So you can come and take them back. What are you going to do? You're going to try? You're going to have to bring your whole crew. You better come in mob-handed, because we are not going to give these up. We are going to keep these batteries, and you know what? We might come over. Send us your address. We're going to come over. We're going to take more, because we want more Core. We don't want less. We don't want none. We want these on every light. You know how many lights we've got. What are you going to do about it? We've got Nerf guns. Nerf guns powered by Core batteries. You can't compete. Bring your crew. See what you can do.